Hi guys, it's Mrs. Milson. Okay, today we're going to learn about a built-in class called math, okay, the math class. There's a lot of built-in methods with it. There's a lot. We're not responsible for every single one, so we're just going to go over some of the basic ones that you guys have to know, okay? Okay, let me get my file all set up here. Okay. Again, math is a built-in class, okay? So you can use it without attaching it to any kind of object. So instead of doing the object name dot the method name, you're just going to type it as math dot method name and then any parameters. Okay? What you got to know, sorry, my cat just jumped off the sofa. What you got to know is what these things yield, whether they yield ints, doubles, or whatnot. Okay? Okay, so let's do our math methods. Oops. Okay, the first one is math.abs, and we put a number in there. Okay, this is for absolute value. Okay, now there are two of these. Okay, this will either yield an int or a double. It depends on what you put in as the parameter. Okay, so I'm going to create an int first. So I'm going to do absolute of a negative number. So I'm going to do math.abs. Let's do -7. And then I will print this variable, which I'm going to copy and paste, save myself some typing. Okay, let's compile. Move my screen up a little bit so you can see. And I should just get 7, right? Absolute value -7 is 7. Okay, if I do the same thing, but this time I create a double, absolute value of negative double, just to differentiate it, I'll do math.abs, and I'll do -5.2. And of course, if I print that, now let's see, copy and paste, give myself a little break, and then I should get 5.2. Agreed. And there we go. Okay, so depending on what you want, do you want it to be an integer? Are you going to put an integer value in here? Or are you going to put a double value in here? So you have to think about that. Okay, so that's absolute value. Not too bad. We can, let's do a little concatenation of a couple just for show you what it looks like. So let's do math.abs of -100, and we'll put a space, and math.abs of -16.2. Okay, so what'll happen here is I'll evaluate this as 100, but then I've introduced some text here, so it should be 100 space 16.2. Okay, now let's see what happens if I take that space out, if it'll read it as text or straight math. Will I get 116.2? What do you think? Okay, so again, since I introduced that little bit of text string, it read this whole thing as text, so it did 100 space 16.2, but there is no text in here, so it read this integer and it added a double, and of course an integer plus a double is going to give you a double. Okay, anyway, all right, so that's the first one, abs. Let's do math.pow for power. So we got the base and the exponent. Okay. Oops. So this is power, and this will also yield, a double. Well, this will yield a double, not also. This will yield a double. Move down a little bit. Okay. I'm not going to create individual variables if that's okay. I want to just kind of make this a little short, so I'm just going to print some stuff. Okay. Okay, so let's do math.pow. Let's just do, I don't know, 2 to the 3rd power. We know that that is 8, right? Okay, so we got our 8, and notice that it's a double, 8.0. Okay. Let's do, I'm going to copy and paste. Let's do 25 to the half power. Okay, so that's the same thing as 25 to the half power or the square root of 25. So that should give me a 5, or since it's a double, it should give me a 5.0, and it does. Okay, so you can use decimals in here because these can be doubles, and I think that's it. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. We'll create a variable. Let's do 9 squared. Oops. So this would equal math. Whoops. 9 commas 2. And then if I print 9 squared variable, I should see 81. Agreed. And it is a double, 81.0. Okay. Pretty straightforward. All right, next one is square root, as I like to call squirt. And then you just put your number in here. Okay, so this is a square, oops, oh my goodness, root, and it yields, oh goodness, yields a double also. Okay, I'm going to speed up this process, and we're not going to create individual variables. All right, let's just do the square root of a perfect square. And we know that's 10. And yes, it's only going to give you the positive square root. It won't give you a positive and a negative 10. Okay, so 10.0. Now, what if I take something that's not a perfect square? Well, everything has a square root. It just might not be a whole number. So this is just going to be a decimal. Whatever the square root of 5 is, 2.23. Okay, so those are your basic math methods you need to know. Absolute value, power, and square. There's a ton more, okay? If you just Google Java math methods, you'll just see there's tons, okay? The last one I want to, but again, you're not responsible for all of them. You're only responsible for the ones we're covering, okay? I want to put some spaces in here. Oops. Add some lines. Okay, I'm using my escape sequence. So we can do random numbers, okay? So there's a method called math random, and this generates a random number. Oops. Okay, let's look at this because this is quite a little process here, okay? I just want to show you what's going on. So system.out print, then if I do math.random, let's see what we get. Okay, you'll notice you get a decimal because what this does, this generates a number between 0.0 and 0.99999. Okay, and you'll notice it's a double. All right, so if we start with double, I'm going to call it random equals, I'm going to copy this. Okay, if I let's say I want them to be integers, okay? So if I change this to an int, I have to cast this entire thing. Remember casting from the first unit? Give myself some space. I'm going to cast this entire thing as an int, Okay, so now I'm really, it's not going to do much. I'm just basically going to get 0 to 0. It's going to look like it. Okay, so if I can take this and add, I'm sorry, not add, multiply this by, say, 10. Okay, so this will give me 0 to 0, 0.0 to 9.999, okay, by multiplying it by 10. And then if I cast it to an int, now I'm from 0 to 9. Okay, you with me? All right, so let's compile. Oh, gotta comment that out. Let me print, first of all, random so you can see it, because I won't be able to see anything. Okay, so I should get a number between 0 and 9. Okay, so I got 9. Let me run it again. And you notice that this one is generating the 0.8197. Okay, so every time I run this, I should get something different. And there's a chance I could get the same thing, the same integer. Probably won't get the same decimal. Okay, so now I got a different decimal, different integer. And every time I run this, it's going to generate different random numbers. Okay, just so you can see. All right, so I should multiply it by 10 because I need to get from 0 to 9, okay? And then when I change it to an int, I'm basically knocking off all the decimals. So now I'm from 0 to 9. So if I want to generate a random number between 0 and 9, this is my, this is how I do it, okay? Let's do something different. Let's do a random number, oops, between, oh my goodness, 1 and 10. Okay, how do you think I would do that? Well, I think I'm just going to print it out if that's okay. I'm going to copy, or actually I'm going to go through this process. Math.random times 10, and then I'm going to take this whole thing and cast it as an int. Okay, now what if I added 1? So now this is going to go from instead of 0 to 9, it's going to go 1 to 10. Okay, do you see how that's working? So I had to put this whole thing in the print statement. Let me close my parentheses for my print statement. So this should generate a random number between 1 and 10. Okay, so I got a 4. Let's see what else we get. Got a 6. Okay. I shouldn't get a 0 here. This 0 is coming from this one, from 0 to 9. Okay. And what ends up happening is there's a pattern to this. Okay. So the pattern is always this. We always do it as an int. We cast it as an int because we want a random number. You don't want a random decimal. And then we do math.random. And then we multiply it by the range. Okay, so the range is going to be max number minus the min number plus 1. Okay, and then we add the minimum number. All right, so let's do an example. We'll do a random number between, let's do 10 and 30. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create, let's do rand number 2. Okay, or we can say this, random number between 10 and 30. Nice juicy name for my variable there. So I'm going to do int. I'm going to cast as an int. Then I'm going to start my math.random times. All right, max minus min. 30 minus 10 is 20, plus 1 is 21. Okay, and then I'm going to add the minimum, which is 10. So this should generate a random number between 10 and 30. okay? Because really all it's telling you is the number of terms. So between 10 and 30, there's 21 numbers. There's 21 numbers between 10 and 30, and it wants to start at 10, okay? So it generates the random number, and then we turn it into an integer. Now, this is hard to, I mean, we should, when I run this, my last number is going to be between 10 and 30. I can run it multiple times, but I probably will not see every single number between 10 and 30. Okay, so now I got 17. It is nice to run it a couple times just to make sure I don't get something like 35 or 2, which would not be between 10 and 30. Okay, so these seem to be working. Okay, but we always have this same pattern. Okay, so that's something to kind of work with and play with a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's random numbers, and we're going to be using random numbers a lot. All right, think about it. To flip a coin, random numbers between 1 and 2, okay, or 0 and 1, or 2 and 3. You know, anytime you're just going to generate one or the other number. You can simulate rolling a die, random number between 1 and 6. Okay, you could simulate picking a card out of a deck, a random number between 1 and 52, or something like that. So we're going to use random number generators quite a bit in the future. Okay. All right, so besides random numbers, we have square root, power, and absolute value, and those are our math methods. And again, these are special methods. They're called static methods. They don't need to be attached to an object. So we just do the class name math, dot, and then whatever the method name is, okay? And I don't need to attach these to any object, okay, of any other class. They'll just run by themselves, so math.random. Okay, great. I will see you all next time.